Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started in here. Oh, my dog just came up to join me. How did you get in here, you little stinker? All right. Biddy's staying right there. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As always, clock, if you don't want to listen to the jibber jab and you watch the replay, you just, this right here, you just forward to the 0 there, and that should be right about the time that we actually start the story. So it should be good to go. Should be good to go. Still getting a few things straightened away here. I've really come to enjoy this warm-up time. John Bivens. I've really come to enjoy this warm-up time. Gives me a chance to check everything is running correctly. Make sure I look all good, you know. Get all dialed. I get all dialed up for you guys. I shave and stuff. Shaved my whole dome today, man. Fuzz Bubbles. David Lamb in the house. Good to see you guys. Voice is crapping out a little bit. I think it's just stage fright. I think I have stage fright at this point, pretty sure. Steve the Iceberg, Ricky Berg, and Pam Weber. How you doing? Very, very dramatic episode today. Very dramatic. Shitbird's out on my porch, man. We got a mama bird and we got 2 baby birds in there. And I found out there were baby birds in there because I went out to water the plant. So it hangs up about to here. And I went out to water the plant, and I'm not looking. It's up, you know, above my head level, which is not very tall. And I pour water. All of a sudden, the bird just takes off, and I about pooped myself. I thought it was a predator has come to got me. Hey, Sean, Jenna, Martin, Richard. I thought I was toast. You know, some supernatural predator thing going on, and so then I realized it was a bird. I've been down this road before. I've been on this earth many years, and I've had birds nest in plants before. I go up there, and I couldn't see over it, so I get my camera out and I look, and just 2 little gray lumps in there. And we got 2 baby birds, and we were very happy when we left it alone. I say leave it alone. Left it alone. The bird came back. I was very worried there for a while. We're gonna have some dead ass birds on my porch, and I was gonna have to clean that up. So Don Shipley in the house. Hello, Christine M. The world is ending. Christine's interview closed. So good luck with that interview, Christine. I hope you look very professional, sharp when you go to do your thing. We've got a little bit of camera movement today, or repositioning. Camera movement would mean you're actually seeing the camera move. But you'll see when A gets up here. It might not look any different to you guys. I'm not sure. Good fertilizer for the plant. Rob, you are 100% correct. It's the reason we keep you around, because you know lots of stuff about birds. He's a bird lawyer, ladies and gentlemen. Very prominent bird lawyer. Tonight is a live read of Slay episode 73, Payment Due. And this may shock you. This is a BuzzFeed headline. Things Scott does that surprised the hell out of you. It's 2 episodes left. It was 8,000. The epilogue was 8,000 words. So Rob and I split it up into 2 episodes, because 8,000 words would take like the whole hour and then some to read. Joseph Adam, how you doing? Good to see you. And so we get the spotted dog. I see. It's very tiny on my screen. Spotted dog. Hey, yeah, you made it. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So we will have one more Slay episode next week, then the Q&A sessions, at least 1, possibly 2, and then we'll go from there. And then A and I, we pretty much know what we're going to do after that. We might talk about it tonight. We're not sure. Hello, Nelzone. Kim, look at all these lovely people coming in. Exactly, Sean. 74 episodes out of 68. The final word count for Slay Book 2, 139,426. But that has been sent off to Big... I got the gas. I got bubbles. That has been sent off to Big John Viscara, who's now doing the continuity edit. And then it will come back to me at some point, and we'll go. Dan the newbie, how you doing, man? Nico Davis, look, everybody's just flooding in. I love it. Look at all these great people coming in. It's fantastic. Good to see all of you, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this episode tonight. It's very sad. It's very dramatic, and then next week's episode is very sad, very dramatic. But the sweet taste of revenge next week. Biddy, what can I do for you, buddy? What are you up to? I'm going to let this dog out. I'm going to pet that dog. 1 second. Here you go, hon. Go get Mama. Come here. Go get Mama. Oh, did you want her in here on purpose? Oh, Betty, come here. My bad, ladies and gentlemen. It's super hot here, as we've told you many times, and get a little bit, not really AC, it's a heat pump or something like that, but it cools things off, so we bring the pups up here because it's super hot for them too. Yes, Martin Evans, Rob out of small town barbecue chicken pizza lawyer. Spotted Dog's excited. Spotted Dog says, maybe I'll finally get off my ass and start writing after listening. Listening to Scott has made me write before. Excellent. Fabulous. So those of you joining late, remember, this timer right here is when we go to story time. So if you don't want to hear me jibber jab, just fast forward, man. Just fast forward. Those of you guys watching, this is not booze, by the way. If it was, there'd be some serious moonshine action going on here. Rob, you're not going to spoil it. I know you're not. Work too hard on it, buddy. You work too hard on it. So everything is good. We have everything cooking. Lots of people on YouTube, lots of people on Facebook, lots of people on Twitch. Fantastic. D79. Everybody's in the house. Yeah, and then after the episode, we're going to have a live recording of Deep Cuts number 12. This is, I'll talk about my tools for the trade of writing. So the stuff I use to write, and it is expansive. It is a giant toolkit, if you will. If I only had a box in which to put all these tools, what would I call it? I don't know. So that we'll do that. And make sure you get your Slay Q&A episode questions in to info@emptyset, ladies and gentlemen. Get those questions in. And we'll be doing that in 2 weeks because you get a bonus. You get a 6th bonus episode or something like that. I don't do math. Rob does math. I don't know. I don't know about that stuff at all. Let's go to open. All right. Now time to button everything up. It's going to start cooking all hot in here. Sound looks good. I think everything looks okay. Ian, glad you're on time too. Great to see you. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Come to punch you in the nuts again. Simon Garfunkel, don't swear that much. Also today, I just learned that Simon and Garfunkel were signed to the record deal by Famous Amos. The Famous Amos who made Famous Amos cookies was an agent, and he signed Simon and Garfunkel. Isn't that crazy? I learned that today. All right. Oh, let's get ready to rumble. 42 seconds. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start this right now. Zoom in, get my checkity check. Yep, looks good. Okay, now I can get rid of that. Back to here. Let's go to main. Let's get the script up. Timothy Clark, how you doing, man? How you doing, man? Good to see you, man. All right. This is by script. It's from the last concert Mr. Big ever played in San Diego, and I got to be there, and it was great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to just jump right into it. We are recording. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's do that again. Previously on Slay. Lincoln, Delilah, Billy, Sophia Franks, Lukas Franks, and Morgan Stone and Kellius Droman defeated Teddy Two Fingers, Haimana, Agneetha, and Teddy's thuengol henchmen, securing the release of the children Teddy kept captive for years. In the process, Lukas was badly injured. Kellius Droman died, and Teddy was left catatonic, completely unresponsive to Lincoln's questions about how to get Lincoln's son Sam off the shelf. Agneetha died too at the hands of Lincoln, and Haimana burned alive as a result of Billy's out-of-control power. It is the first time Billy has taken a life. And now, episode 73 of Slay. Magda stared at the laptop screen. She couldn't believe it. The PJ Fucks Fuck Ton O' Nuts t-shirt had just sold its 1,000th unit. Unbelievable. While she had been dealing with Link and Billy and the Droman drama and beating herself up because she couldn't go out and throw hands besides her best friend, an influencer on TikTok had worn the shirt while doing some stupid dance. Sales blew up. She'd sold 900 in the last week alone. 900 shirts at $20 each, $10 profit per. Lincoln and Billy had beaten Teddy and freed the kids, including Delilah. And now, $9,000 in profit? Maybe things were turning around. Droman was dead, though, which gave Magda a pang of guilt for feeling happy at the good fortune. But you know what? In this business, people died. Wasn't her fault. Apparently, the guy couldn't keep it in his pants. Death by his own dick, in a way. The clip-clop of high heels on tile. Magda shut the laptop just as Ariella rushed in, her eyes gleaming and her smile blazing. Morganstone just called. They wrote off our debt for the defenses Kellius put in. Bingles is paid off. Droman's paid off. We are out of debt. And Morgan put out the word that Lincoln isn't blacklisted anymore. We're debt-free, and we can start chasing bounties again. Things were turning around indeed. I'm so excited, Ariella said. Have you seen Lincoln? I told him about the blacklist, but not about the debt cancellation. I want to get him back to work right away. Of course she did. And Ariella didn't seem to show a shred of sadness that Droman, her former lover, was dead. Magda wasn't going to judge, though. Takes all kinds. He's off to see Callista, Magda said. Ariella looked at her watch. Oh, of course. Gotta make that payment. He should be there just in time. And did you see that little treasure chest he brought home? I went through it. The next 2 payments to Callista are already covered. Lincoln can really focus on chasing bounties, and we can get some money in the bank. Lincoln had used some of the treasures to pay for Billy's armor and get his cloak back. Magda wondered if she should mention the 9 large to Ariella. Not just yet, but maybe soon. Ariella glanced to the door that led to the nave. You know, if Billy can join Link, maybe we could get more bounties faster. Do you think he's ready? From what Lincoln had told Magda, Billy was a long way from ready. Probably not, Magda said. The kid has some control issues still. We need to get him another trainer. Ariella glanced off and nodded. Okay, I'll get to work on that. He's in the nave, by the way. Not even watching a movie. He's just sitting there. He's so sad. Maybe you should talk to him. Magda had tried that twice already. Billy had clammed up. Couldn't hurt to try again, though. Sure, she said. But give us a room, all right? He's been through some rough stuff. I'll be in my office, Ariella said. Time to make some calls. Something that the woman was damn good at, Magda had to admit. When it came to selling Lincoln services, Ariella Goldsmith could make it rain. Magda carried her laptop to the nave. As big as Billy had become, he still had many of the same mannerisms from when he'd been little. The 6'4" Adonis sat cross-legged on the couch. In his spot, a tiny dachshund with long black fur curled up in his lap, her little nose hidden by her long, shaggy tail. Okay, kid, Magda said as she sat next to Billy. You've moped long enough. Time we had a talk. He glanced at her, his big dark eyes He glanced at her, his big, dark eyes haunted and sad. Long enough. Mags, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. Can't I just have some space? No. After what you've been through, space is a bad thing. Talk to me, Billy. Say it out loud. That ain't something you can keep locked up inside. Trust me on that. He slowly, gently twirled Dragon's ear. Master Droman went out hard, he said. Morgan tried using the same stuff Lincoln used to save Sophia, I guess, but she didn't have enough to counter the scorpion poison. Master Droman's chest and neck, they swelled up something awful. He couldn't breathe. He knew he was dying, and no one could help him. That could happen to me, you know? Magda nodded slowly. Droman had been Billy's teacher. Of course that upset the kid. It would upset anyone. Billy was young, sure, but he'd been through a lot, and he'd already seen his fair share of brutal death. When it came to danger, when it came to risk, Billy had a backbone of steel. That wasn't because of Lincoln's influence or Magda's. The kid had been born with it. No, this wasn't about personal risk. Wasn't about a cheek-to-cheek slow dance with the Grim Reaper. Billy Middleton held a deeper truth within him. It was Magda's duty to help him find it, to help him deal with it, and, most of all, help him put it down. Now, I know this is hard, she said. Losing someone you admire always is. You saw some shit. But I know you, Lil B. There's something you're not telling me. So, tell it already. That's what family is for. It was the word family that made him lift his head, because he knew it was true. He felt it, just as Magda felt it, just as Lincoln felt it, just as Dragon felt it. Billy took a deep breath, gathering himself. Magda didn't rush him. It wasn't like she had somewhere else to be, and there was nothing more important than this moment, this now. I killed Haimana, he said, his voice as soft as the pup's fur. It wasn't a quick death. She burned alive. I couldn't stop it. I could smell it. It was awful. He closed his eyes. Billy Middleton, now Big B perhaps, his little B days behind him, started to cry. Dragon sprang to her feet, whined, started to furiously lick his closed eyes. She did that when Billy got upset. Haimana begged me to stop, Billy said. I'm not sure if I couldn't or I just wouldn't. The stink, Mags. I can't get it out of my nose. You ever smelled burning human flesh before? Sadly, Magda had. More than once. Yeah, I'm familiar with that smell, she said. It ain't pretty. Dragon's kisses increased in speed and intensity. Billy kept his eyes shut tight, let it happen. I didn't mean to kill her. I lost control. I couldn't stop it. God, but this man's genuine heart and innocence was a shotgun to the soul. I know, Billy. She put her arm around his shoulders. I know you feel horrible. That feeling, that's going to stay with you a long time. Maybe forever. He shook with quiet sobs. She pulled him closer. He rested his head on her shoulder. Dragon whined, kept licking Billy's face as if doing so would save him from the depths of hell. In a way, it would. You rescued children, Magda said. Children that Haimana and Teddy kept in slavery, in constant nightmares. Sometimes, Billy, when you fight to defend the weak, Their tormentors get what's coming to them. She felt his head nod. Yeah, he said. I know, but I was so full of anger, Mags. So full of hate. And it felt good. It gave me strength. I'm not sure how much of what happened was because of the mesh buzz fucking with my power, or it was just me. You know what I'm saying? Oh boy, did she ever. Billy, don't take this the wrong way, but shit happens. They don't call it a fight to the death for nothing. Haimana killed Droman. She would have killed Morgan. She would have killed you. When you are fighting for your life, you got to use all you got. You did. That's why you're here with me, and Haimana is tits up in a dustbin. You want to blame someone for that evil bitch's toasty finish? Fine. Blame her. He was quiet for a moment. Magda felt him nod again, ever so slightly. Yeah, you're right, he said. It's on her. Not me, but she's gone. Gone forever by my hand. I know you kill people, Mags. Do you ever get used to it? Do you ever get used to this cavernous feeling? Cavernous. Magda kind of remembered that sensation, kind of remembered the feelings of guilt. But only a little, like looking at a mostly faded postcard. Billy hadn't had her training. He hadn't been raised to be a weapon against the darkness, to be the unforgiving collector of unpayable debts. Billy had not been trained to make the world a better place by killing those that made it worse. So, as his friend, Magda did the only thing she could do. She lied to him. No, honey, she said. You never get used to it. Because if you do, that means your soul is crumbling into powder. You're going to feel like this for a long while. That's okay. That's how it works. You had any sleep? She felt him shake his head. Dragon's kisses were the only noise in the room. Then go get some, Magda said. With what you've been through, as soon as your head hits that pillow, you will be out. Tomorrow's a new day, Billy. We'll talk more then. He sat up straight. Without a word, he stood. Dragon curled in one muscular arm, he left the nave and headed for his room. If he stayed here, at the church, with Lincoln Franks, the sad truth was Billy probably would get used to it. He would get used to killing. He'd get used to killing. Because where the man in gray walked, death walked with him. Unska, unska, unska. The crowd parted for him, as the crowd always did. Sweaty bodies, skimpy clothes. The burn damage had been repaired. Those areas updated with a new circus/goth/BDSM pastiche that Bingles and his crew would probably jizz over. The new mirror ball was bigger. New lights, too. Lasers and shit. Enough flashing colors to kill a dozen epileptics. Love what you've done with the place, Lincoln said over his shoulder, yelling to be heard. How kind of you to notice, Gary Sater said. Many of the design elements are mine. Had they also redecorated the polyp room, or was that lovely little taste of Jorogumo evil? Damn it. Or was that lovely little taste of Jorogumo evil still in place, with its emaciated corpses and dangling bones? Nah, they probably hadn't. That wasn't exactly something you could clean up with a fresh coat of paint. Cool story, Gary, Lincoln said. This noise you call music still sucks rancid donkey balls, though. Lincoln couldn't hear Gary's heavy sigh over the music, but he knew it was there. The scent of sex hung in the air, but there was another odor that pulled at Lincoln, that beckoned to him. The smell of booze. Not tonight, though. Not tonight. They reached the dance floor, packed with writhing young beauties. The old floor had been made of 12-inch squares that flashed up in red, orange, blue, yellow, and so on. The new floor was a step up. Thousands of tiny dots pulsing, effectively making the entire surface a TV screen that showed vampires drinking chalices of blood in time to the music. A video for the song, perhaps. The dancers parted and parted, until they cleared a path to a large, ornate silver throne. Seated around that throne were scantily clad guards with perfect bodies and weapons prominently displayed in holsters and scabbards. Standing behind the throne, towering and magnificent, was a thickly muscled, black-furred minotaur, his hands resting atop a golden, double-bladed labrys axe. On the throne itself, awash in the flashing colors and gleaming like a goddess, was Lincoln's enemy. The red-haired, leather-clad beauty known as Callista. Sitting on the throne's arm, the lithe form of Mercutio, his blue eyes piercing, a fishnet top more a compliment than a cover-up of his far too perfect body. Mercutio. He had that Jorogumo magic amulet he'd used in the fight against Dante's forces. That reminded Lincoln. Mercutio had said Bastard Maker was Jorogumo magic too. Lincoln had meant to ask Peanut about that, but in all the excitement, he'd forgotten it. Oh well, he'd get to it next time he went to the clearinghouse. Callista watched Lincoln approach. He stopped a few feet shy of her throne. "Sup, Bobby?" Lincoln said. "Sup, Link? Good to see you again." Callista glanced at her bodyguard. "Robert, you know he is supposed to address me first." The bullhead nodded again. "Yes, mistress," Bobby said. "Sometimes I can't control my gregarious nature." Callista gave an exasperated sigh. Lincoln heard that one clear as a bell. She snapped her fingers. The music cut off instantly, leaving the sprawling club silent save for the heavy inhales of dancers trying to catch their breath. "Hello, Lincoln," Callista said. "So nice to see you again. You've gained weight." He almost laughed. "Yeah, I suppose I have. It'll make it a little hard to bounce up and down on Mommy's lap." "Mommy?" Callista's smile was a sneer of excitement. "Oh, I like the sound of that." She patted her knee. "Want to give it a try?" Lincoln shook his head. "Not interested." The way her eyes narrowed into light told him she knew he was lying. Didn't exactly take a psychic to figure that one out. Anyone with a pulse and functioning genitalia was interested in Callista. "I prefer you call me mistress," she said, "as all of my servants do." Just because she was hotter than the core of the sun didn't make him hate her any less. Lincoln suspected she could get Sam off the shelf, but she wouldn't do that. Not while she could make Lincoln jump through hoops for her. He had come so close. So damn close. He had missed his chance at Teddy by mere minutes. Lincoln would carry that knowledge around for a long, long time. "The thing is, I'm not your servant," Lincoln said. "I know that pisses you off, but it's the way things are." Callista leaned back in her throne, stretched out her left leg, let the red patent leather boot rock back and forth, balancing on the tip of its 6-inch heel. "Things change, my pet," she said. "Things change when you can't make your payments. It was so kind of Kellius Droman to put the word out that you're not allowed to chase bounties. Did he know he was doing me a favor? Maybe. He was a great lay, after all." Lincoln stared. Haimana, Morgan, Ariella, Callista? Was there anyone Droman hadn't fucked? He thought of telling Callista that Droman was dead, but decided not to. Callista was the kind of person who might try to take advantage of the situation, take what she could of Droman's empire. Delilah needed time to lock things down. Callista would find out about Kellius' death soon enough.
I didn't get that.
Whoops.
Could you try?
Callista would find out about Kellius' death soon enough, but she wouldn't find out from Lukas Franks. "Your time is up," Callista said. "If you're here to beg for an extension, then start begging. Or we can just cut to the chase and negotiate a new contract." She rolled her hand in a dramatic flourish. A sphere appeared in her palm. She tossed it to the floor at Lincoln's feet. The sphere grew larger. In it, Lincoln saw his son, Samuel, in that house on the shelf, building a Lego construct with Nanny Naga. "The shelf is such a dangerous place," Callista said. "You work directly for me, Lincoln, like you used to, and your beautiful child will continue to be protected." Lincoln slowly reached into his cloak. Bobby bristled. Mercutio perked up, and the guards reached for their weapons. "Be still," Callista snapped. "Lincoln is far smarter than that." Her protectors relaxed. In his cloak's endless folds, Lincoln found what he sought. He gripped the guitar by the neck, pulled it free of the cloak, and held it up to Callista. "A guitar?" She waved at her face, dispelling imaginary heat. "Why, Lukas Franks, are you going to serenade me?" "No, ma'am." He held the guitar toward Mercutio. "I think you'll find this covers the payment." Mercutio hopped off the throne and took the guitar. He looked it over. His perfectly plucked eyebrows went up. "Mistress, this is high-caliber meshwork," he said. "Immensely valuable. It easily satisfies the current payment." Lincoln thought Callista would grow angry, but she did not. Instead, she puffed out her lower lip in an affected pout. For fuck's sake. Why did the person Lincoln hated more than any other have to be so goddamn sexy? "Oh, pooh," Callista said. "Oh, well. You still can't get new contracts, Lincoln. And I know you and your little cabal is beyond broke. I figure we'll renegotiate your contract soon enough." Wouldn't she be surprised? Droman's bounty hunting blacklist was no more. Lincoln was free to work once again, to do what he did better than anyone else. Callista sat up straighter. "Enough business. Please, Lincoln, stay and enjoy my newly decorated establishment. Have a drink with me. Gary, bring us champagne." "I'll take a rain check." Lincoln pulled his hood up over his head. "Integumento." The haze of Cimarron flared to life, spreading out and hiding his eyes. "There's something I need to kill first, and I don't want to be tipsy when I put it down." Lincoln turned, enjoying the weight of the cloak flaring out behind him. He strode off the dance floor. As he left Callista's club, the music once again blared to life. Someday, Lincoln was going to destroy that woman. Not tonight, though. Not tonight. Tonight, he had another target in mind. Sophia, Lukas, thank you for coming, Auntie Juanita said. How are you both feeling? Sophia hadn't fully recovered from the centipede poison. She felt exhausted. It was hard to draw a full breath. Her neck felt like someone had hit it. Her neck felt like someone had hit it 100 times with a claw hammer. At least the shaking had stopped. I feel fine, Sophia said. Lukas nodded. Never felt better, Clostator. Another day on this crutch, and I'm back to work. His lies were on par with Sophia's. Clerics were still repairing the horrific damage to his leg. He'd had dozens of chiropractors slithering inside him, sculpting bone, repairing ligaments and tendons. He probably had at least one worm in there now, hidden by his armor. The children of Jacoby Franks were nothing if not tough. This isn't a get-well party, Clostator, Bassil said. This is a disciplinary session. Juanita was sitting at her desk. Bassil was standing one step behind her, one step to her left. He wore a brown cassock with the red sash around his waist that marked him as the Closta Secundo. Juanita's ochre-colored cassock looked 3 sizes too big for her bony frame. As weak as she was, though, she still wore the bronze pauldrons that marked her as the Clostator, the Bastion's sole leader. The look in Bassil's eyes, the glare. Lincoln was wrong about many things, but Sophia could not fault his constant desire to punch Bassil Beverly in the nose. Bassil, Juanita said in her creaking voice, this is my office, and I will run things as I see fit. Keep that in mind. His lips pressed into a thin line. Yes, Clostator. He didn't hide his ambition, but at the same time, he didn't hide his respect for Juanita either. She had earned it 10 times over. The captives have been returned to their families, Juanita said. They are getting the help they need. We will continue to monitor them, but the sad truth is, they will never be the same. That was something, at least. As for the 2 kids who died, they, too, would never be the same. But there was still one more kid out there. What's the assessment on Teddy's condition? Sophia asked. He knows how to get my nephew off the shelf. Bassil smirked. Maybe he knew, but I don't think he knows anything anymore. Sophia's tolerance only went so far. Closta Secundo, she said. We are talking about my family. If you don't remove that smug look off your face, I will stand in the training square and call your name, and then I will remove it for you. He scoffed. Clostator, are you going to let this Rixator speak to me in such a manner? Juanita slowly turned her body enough to look back at him. I don't know, Bassil, she said. If Sophia calls your name, are you going to accept her challenge? Bassil had expected support, some recognition for his position. Trouble was, Auntie Juanita didn't play that game. In her world, no one hid behind a title. Bassil said nothing. These Rixators just broke up a slavery ring and rescued 31 children that the Bastion couldn't find for years, Juanita said. You will address them in a fashion that befits their accomplishment. Understand? Bassil stiffened. Yes, Clostator. Good. Juanita faced forward again. And Sophia, my dear, stop being such a sensitive bitch. You can't go calling out the Claus de Secundo because you don't like the tone of his voice. Understand? Sophia tore her gaze from Basil, nodded at the emaciated old woman. Yes, Clostator, I understand. Would you elaborate on Teddy's condition, please? Juanita sighed, leaned back in her chair. Theodore Trevino's initial evaluation is not good, she said. He remains catatonic, with no awareness of the world around him. He had 7 dream gaunts on him, all at once. In all of our recorded history, nothing like this has ever happened before. The clerics believe he is suffering ongoing mental trauma. They will keep trying, but... She raised a hand. They fear his condition is permanent. Sophia's heart sank. Horrible news. Lincoln would be crushed. Poor Samuel, stuck in that awful place. His powerful family of warriors, powerless to rescue him. And the one man who knew how to get him out, laying blank-eyed somewhere with a cleric probably wiping spit off his chin. There has to be something we can do, Lukas said. Dream gaunts made Teddy like this. Can we use dream gaunts to repair the damage? For all of Lukas's attitude problems and jealousy issues, he loved Samuel just as much as Sophia did. They've already tried that, Basil said, actual empathy in his voice now. The clerics will continue to work on him, but they say he is too far gone. I suppose that's the one thing Teddy didn't see coming. He thought he was dealing with a 13-year-old, when in reality, Delilah Droman was 22, at an age when mesh workers are just entering their true adult power. And her power appears to be off the scales, more than even her father possessed. She is dangerous. Juanita nodded. She will need to be monitored. Sophia felt for Delilah, too. The girl had lost her father, a father who had lied to her in a way that defied imagination. And now that Delilah had taken over his business empire up in the underskin, the Bastion would watch her. Watch her and be ready to kill her if she broke bad. Delilah's power terrified people, and she had only just begun. Sophia hoped that, if Delilah did become evil, she and Lukas would not get the assignment to end her. But if that assignment came, Sophia would do what was asked of her, whether Lincoln cared for the girl or not. Clostator, Lukas said. Is it correct that Teddy's lair was part of the jail complex? Juanita looked to the window, stared for a moment. She seemed so despondent. Not like her old self at all. Not like when Sophia and Lincoln had been little kids. But that was life for you. People get old. People get sick. Yes, Juanita said. That cell block was part of the jail complex. When Teddy escaped, there were several deaths involved. I ordered all cell blocks that ran beyond the Bastion's walls to be abandoned and walled up. Normally, I would blame myself for this error, but I've accepted that few could have seen it coming. No one could, Clostator, Basil said. The audaciousness. Quite brilliant, actually. Who would have thought he'd occupy the very complex that held him captive for years? He bought that awful restaurant, sank the elevator shaft, and conducted his hideous operation right under our noses. Basil was a political creature, always eager to point a finger if it damaged someone else and therefore made him look better. Not even he held this against Auntie Juanita, and neither did Sophia. A sad, sad fact. Teddy was smarter than everyone else. Or at least he had been. Now, on with the disciplinary hearing, Juanita said. Sophia, Lukas, you knew Teddy was one of our most wanted criminals. The moment you learned of his location, you should have come to us. If you had, Teddy might still be alive, and we might be on our way to rescuing Samuel Franks. That guilty thought had already wormed its way into Sophia's mind, but she dismissed it. By moving fast, they had saved all but 2 of the captives. That was what mattered. A Franks did not wallow in the regret of second-guessing. Plan, attack, win, deal with the consequences later. This was a severe transgression, Bassil said. Not only did you fail to inform us, you worked side by side with a disgraced, drunken rixator, one who should be in a cell himself. Sophia's hands clenched into fists. She forced herself to relax them, dotting this man between the eyes and putting him in a wrist lock until he tapped out would not make the situation better. Juanita was letting Bassil handle this. She wasn't going to help Sophia and Lukas. Wonderful. This would not end well. A suspension was coming. If they were lucky, it would go no further. At that moment, though, Sophia did not feel particularly lucky. Lukas, Bassil said, I've come to expect such behavior from your sister, but I thought you were made of sterner stuff. I am very disappointed. Sophia didn't have to look at her brother to know how that comment cut him. Young and impressionable, Lukas thought Bassil walked on water because Bassil believed in the unweaver prophecy, just like their father did. Lukas cleared his throat. I understand, Clausator. I make no excuses for my actions, but my nephew, I was concerned that Teddy would... I told Lukas to stay silent, Sophia snapped. I am the senior socius. I ordered Lukas to assist me. The decision was mine and mine alone. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw her youngest brother turn, look at her with his mouth hanging open. Very well, Bassil said. Sophia Franks, you are suspended from active duty for 3 months. 3 months you will spend helping the kitchen staff in the dining hall. 3 months of peeling potatoes, mopping the floor, and emptying the trash. Wonderful. Still, there was one way to make this truly worthwhile. I accept, she said. But I would like to clarify, Clausator, that Teddy was captured, and my brother did help greatly in the effort. That proves Lincoln had nothing to do with Teddy's operation. Sophia locked eyes with Bassil, silently begging him to call her out. My brother Lincoln was not an accomplice to kidnapping, and he should endure no further investigation from anyone. I agree, Juanita said. Bassil, see to it that you close your investigation into Lincoln Franks. Bassil's sneer slipped out before he could shut it down. So it wasn't a punch in the throat, but still felt pretty good. Yes, Clausator, he said, his stare still battling Sophia's. He smiled slightly. Since Lukas is without associates for the next 3 months, I would like him to work with and learn from Rochelle. I will spend the next 3 months shadowing you, Clausator, and learning more about my inevitable role as your humble replacement. Sophia's anger grew. She'd been played. Through Rochelle, Bassil's socius, his partner, Bassil would continue to drag Lukas into his world of conspiracy theories. Sophia would not be there to counter such idiocy. Juanita sighed again. She looked so tired. That's fine, she said. Sophia, Lukas, you may go. That's it. Only one more episode left. And this time I'm telling you the truth. This time, I'm not lying to you. Why would I lie to you? Why would I? Ooh, I forgot the little sleigh thing. Oh, well, I can't win them all. One more episode to go. Got a scene with Billy. Got a scene with Lincoln. And got a scene with a very, very special guest to close out the entire book. So, there you go. That was the first point of view scene with Sophia. So that was kind of fun. She will be a point of view character in the next book. And that's all Rob and I could tell you. It's all Rob and I can tell you this time. The burp was all me. That wasn't Rob's burp. That was all mine. Oh my gosh. I got the gas, you guys. Got so much gas. Okay, let's get ready to rumble when A comes up. Still working on the crazy mic issues we've got. Let's go to chat. See what you guys are up to in the chat while we wait for A to come on. Come on up. Get up. Come on up. Ian Sequel says, special guest, Granny's back. I can neither confirm nor deny. Cobalt says, the conversation between Billy and Mags gave him a feeling of impending doom. I'm not surprised by that because there's impending doom afoot. D79 is one more episode. Why you dirty? Yeah, it's one more episode. And Rob, as Rob points out, one more episode. And we're not lying. It is genuinely one more episode. The Spotted Dog says, yo, it's all good. We already know that Billy is the spoiler. Sean says, I don't remember. Have you mentioned what happens if a Caro factor is left on too long? No, we have not mentioned that, Sean. That is not germane to the story at this point. And to be honest with you, I doubt it ever will be. They are a fairly predictable, reliable form of healing. The trick with them is you got to get to it quick enough and you got to know what you're doing with them. So if an amateur was to use a Caro factor, that could end poorly because there's a lot of magical words involved. You know, there's magical mental control about what you're going to do. D79 says the numbers don't lie and they spell disaster. They sure do. Hello, darling. Howdy. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Come to have a cookie again. Famous Amos signed Simon and Garfunkel. Thanks, son. I was just singing a song, man. That's what I do. All right, let's go to the other cam. Yes. Okay, we're looking at getting our camera angles set up here. You got that, Pumpkin?
I'll try.
You'll be trying. Oh, there's right there. Jeez, I was looking right at it. Whoop, 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 whoop. Ah, what the hell's happening?
Easy for you to say.
Cobalt says, that was awesome. Thank you, Scott, for making Wednesday something to look forward to instead of something to get through. Yes. Hump day! Okay, how we doing? It's so dark. It's so
Hey,
dark
guys. Oh.
Let me help with that.
Hey, what's this one?
Yeah, I've been having a devil of a time with it. So
Hello, I'm not touching it.
I'm trying to get this. If you face the camera and it's kind of talking like out of the corner of your mouth with the mic, that might help with
this corner or this corner?
That corner right there. That cute little corner right there.
But that's this corner if I talk out of this corner. You mean this way?
I guess either way.
Okay. Hi, guys.
I guess either way. All right, let's do this a little bit. There we go. So, babe, that's the new camera angle I told you about.
All right. We'll see how it goes.
Our color is just
I
insane.
noticed you've removed the bass guitars that have the resonant strings.
We tried that.
We're going to try it.
We tried that. We'll see how that goes.
We'll see how it goes.
But I'm pretty sure the issue is simply we just need to get these mics pointing in opposite directions because I experimented with it a little bit today. Because I do science, you sons of bitches. Webcam settings panel. Give us 1 minute. We'll get rolling here.
I do this.
Okay, let's go to your camera, sweet pickle. And let's see what happens here. Right cam setting. A little bit better. Very good.
I have very shiny cheeks.
Auto.
That's okay. It's my highlighter. Well, it's my highlighter on this side.
Basic.
Apparently. Just weird. Some,
Aperture priority. That should do the trick.
Yep,
that worked out.
That's
it worked
better.
out famously. Famously, like Famous Amos. Did you know Famous Amos signed Simon Garfunkel? And also Marvin Gaye. Did you know that?
Wait, you just said, did you know Famous Amos, Simon and Garfunkel, and Marvin Gaye?
Famous Amos was the founder of Famous Amos Cookies.
Yes.
he was a entertainment agent. He signed Simon and Garfunkel and Marvin fucking Gaye. Can you believe that shit?
I wasn't.
It's facts.
No, I don't.
Look it up.
I don't. Okay, we're gonna look that up.
Look it up. I know I saw it on the internet today, and the internet never lies. It's always good. Internet's solid, rock solid. Okay, let's go to chat. This is
He was a television personality,
famous name as well.
Entrepreneur and author from Tallahassee, Florida.
Yep.
Not sure he was a agent to the stars.
Listen, I saw it on the internet today, dog. So, gosh darn it, I'm screwing this up so bad. Problems. I've got problems. See, Galley. Okay. All right, here we go. We're getting into it now. You guys have listened to his babble long enough. Glad you enjoyed the episode. Rob and I have one more left to bring you, and get yourself a box of tissues, ladies and gentlemen. Get yourself a box of tissues. It's going to be rough.
Oh
okay,
my.
Let me call up first, honey. Let's go over here. I'll do that in a minute. Okay. All the usual stuff. If you are not signed up for our SMS list, you should do that. SIG text to 855-955-5095. You will get a coupon for 10% off on stuff. If you have anything, ideas for a deep cuts that you want us to do, you can email that to info@emptyset. General questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is the thing I have to say. We have mostly been talking about Scott's writing and how he writes and how we deal with the industry at large. We're a small business. We can talk about other things too if you want, or I mean, I'm not sure how much we want to talk about our relationship and all that jazz, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be writing related. If what you're asking has to do with us as Empty Set or us as small business people or whatever, you can ask those questions too. We won't necessarily dedicate a whole half hour to them because nobody wants to hear about my breakfast acumen or something, whatever.
Dude's bomb ass.
No, my point is,
I want to hear about your breakfast cooking all the time.
Like that is not a half an hour worth of content.
So
is
good.
my It's my point. But no matter what your questions are, if you want to send them along, we don't just have to talk about writing and Scott's writing style or how to get published or all those things that have very, very, very much to do with writing. Somebody recently asked about our podcasting setup because they saw Scott had a PDF download from, I think it was 2009, and wanted to know if it was up to date, which of course it's not because the whole world has changed. So those, we're going to talk about that a little bit next week. You'll hear that in a few minutes on Deep Cuts. But if you have anything you want to talk about, go ahead
Before we
go ahead and email info@emptyset. You can put it in the chat room. It's vastly easier for us since we're actively talking to you guys and talking to each other while we're doing deep cuts for you to email info@emptyset.
Yep.
Likewise, we're going to say this again in a minute. If you have Q&A questions about anything to do with the Siglerverse, anything to do with Scott and I, anything to do with Empty Set, you are welcome to email those to info@emptyset for our Q&A episodes. Scott says email anything you want.
Yep.
He doesn't necessarily answer every question, but he can do that on the fly. He doesn't hear them before I read them to him live.
Only sometimes.
And this time it'll be Rob and Scott.
That's right. And sometimes, frankly, you horribly offend me with your questions. And I'm a sensitive creature. I'm very sensitive.
I think most of the time you just don't want to tell spoilers.
Correct.
Why I said spoilers, I don't know.
I don't want to tell you a spoiler. Nelzone backs me up. Amos began working at William Morris, New York after serving in the military. He worked his way up from the mailroom and represented such acts as Simon and Garfunkel, Marvin Gaye, and Helen Reddy. It was Reddy who helped bankroll his baking side hustle. See, emphasis on syllables. His baking side hustle. All right, here we go. Let's get back to work. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll turn that off. And, of course, newsletter. I'm going to get newsletters out one of these days. It's going to be great. And Steve the Iceberg, Ricky Borg has a whole... Ricky Borg has a whole Discord server cooking, and you guys can get that. And I am not very active on Twitter anymore. I'm very active on Threads. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. It's like what Twitter used to be.
You have been talking about Mama.
Yeah, we have a bird. We have bird. Amen. Amen. I want my bird.
We have 3 birds. We have a mama bird, 2 baby birds. Mama bird, 2 baby birds, 3 birds.
Yes. See, now that's one accent I'm terrible at is my the Whiplash accent from Iron Man 3, I think it is. But Rob's awesome at it. That's why I wish Rob was here. Hey, man.
The spotted dog on Twitch says the rotting husk, that was once Twitter. I don't know you, but I love you.
Yeah, it's awful over there. All right, so enough of that crap. Let's go quickly over the schedule of the stank. Then we got a great topic for you guys.
They're doves.
They're doves. On Sunday, August 11th, Slay episode 72, Termination, went live in the feed. Tuesday, August 13th, Deep Cuts 11 went live in the feed. That one was my lovely wife and I discussing the difference between sci-fi and fantasy in general and in my own work. Sunday, August 18th, tonight's episode will go live in the podcast feed. Wednesday, August 20... Wait. That's right. Sorry. Thursday, August 22nd, the last episode of Slay Season 2. For real this time! I mean it! It's the last fucking episode, you sons of bitches. Don't trust me. Don't test me. And again, that is Thursday, not Wednesday, because we got some stuff going on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to see a concert on that Wednesday night, and that's the only time they're in town. So we're going to see them that night.
Hey, who are we going to see, Pumpkin?
We're going to see Squeeze. It's a birthday gift for me. Our good friends, the goddamn dog sitters, are taking us to see Squeeze because I loved Squeeze back when I was in high school so much. And they very rarely play the United States, and not even all of them are playing the United States right now. But the most important ones are. So we're going to see Squeeze.
And mango one for my bird. And then Saturday.
Thank you, Sean.
Where is it? Where's Facebook? Saturday, September 7th, Steve the Iceberg, Ricky Berg's Junkie Hang. He will be hanging out with all of you. You want to shoot the poop, talk about what's going on. How's that goddamn autofocus back on again? I hate that.
I'll be there on the 7th for quite a while. This last time I was there for a little while, and then my mom called or answered a scam text.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I had to get off the phone and manage that. But on the 7th, I will also be hanging out for a while. And so if you want to join that call, if you guys don't know, we don't talk about it every day because you guys know this after 4 years. But Steve is so gracious from 4 p.m. Pacific time to 11 p.m. Pacific time, willing to man that Zoom call. And this one will be, I'll join. Sometimes people ask me questions about Scott. That's totally fair game. A lot of times we just talk about ourselves. The last time I was on the call last month, I had glued my hand to itself. So I talked about that like a lunatic. So, come and join us.
Crazy glued your hand. It's so A.
Yeah, I did.
And I will say, though, speaking of her mom, we both have elderly parents and who watch a lot of news from a certain network. And when we try to be proactive and send emails that say things like, hey, here's a new scam going around. You're not going to want to do this. They get super pissy and they're like, I think we would know a scam. I think I'm smart. Okay. I'm not dumb and old. I think we know a scam. And then invariably 2 weeks later, we call like, somebody emailed me a link that said my Facebook account had been canceled. So I clicked on it.
Well, this one was my Netflix account. I have to confirm. I'm like, you're on my Netflix account. There is no confirmation. They're like, you will never get an email. Your email's not part of that. And the answer was, but I mean, I got this email, which is fair. If you think about it from that perspective, like I got an email that looks legitimate. I went to Netflix and I can't log in with the email address they sent the note to, which is true. And they said I was locked out. So it looks like I'm locked out. Like it was smart. It was a smart scam as scams go, but it was still a scam.
Still a scam. David Lim asks if we enjoyed the new Deadpool and Wolverine. I had a great time. I think it's one of the dumbest, most fun superhero movies ever.
I loved it.
And both of those dudes, I'll just watch anything that they're in at any time. I don't give a shit.
Although we have had a lot of great movies at home recently, which we may or may not talk about here. But we will.
We'll get to it. We're running really late, so let's get into this. Sorry about that.
We might not.
Crypt Book 2 is at 93,000 words. It is slated for 110. I'm working on that right now, getting some counseling from Big John and from other people as well. Slay Final, 139,426 words. Slay Book 2 is now in production. It's officially done. You guys get that last episode next week. And if you haven't bought Slay Book 1 on Audible or Amazon, go do it and leave us a review. You sons of bitches. You ready?
Yes. And for everybody telling us about Aliens Romulus, we have it scheduled already. We're going on Friday.
What's up, bitches? It's going to suck. I'm sorry. It's going to suck.
Hey. We're going to manifest joy. It may not be what you want, but it's going to be entertaining.
It's going to be entertaining.
May not be what you want,
It
but
may
it's
not be
going
what
to
I
be
want.
fun. May not be
Gonna
what you
have some
want,
fun.
but look at all this you get to go with.
I get to go with all this.
Hello.
Yeah.
Meow.
Mhm.
Did he just
That's
look at my
fair point.
boobs? He totally did.
That's
I
fair
mean,
point.
that's fair.
It's legal. We're married. All right. So now we're going to knock out our deep cuts episode for you guys. And you ready, baby?
I am.
Okay. So
Hang on. Is it time yet or not?
I'll just roll through this. We'll be back with Slay episode 73 next Thursday, August 15th, not Wednesday, August 14th. Shit, I got that wrong too. We'll be back next Thursday. Fuck off. Time for deep cuts. We recorded these bonus episodes. If you got to tap out now, you can catch this topic, this episode in the podcast feed. Subscribe at scottsigler.com/subscribe, which includes links for Spotify podcasts and Apple podcasts. Hold on, baby. I got to call it up. Get on up. Grand Animal, get on up. Deep cuts 12.
Nope. Oh.
Oh, yeah, I want to save that motherfucker for sure. For shizzle. Why won't it keep the goddamn records on? Boop. Boop. Check. Baby, check.
Check.
You did that so well. Okay, ready? 16 minutes. Go right ahead. Hey, to be a writer, all you need is MS Word and go clickety-clackety on them keys, right? Wrong! You have to have stuff, a bunch of stuff. You can't believe how much stuff you have. If you don't have stuff, you will fail.
Okay. All right. Do you actually want to tell the good people what you actually need to do this?
Yeah, I think that'd be much more rational. Thank you, actually.
Yeah. So go ahead and do your intro.
Hey, y'all, welcome to Deep Cuts, the bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices Fiction Podcast, where a sci-fi author and an audiobook narrator discuss things and stuff in the world of writing and content creation. I am Scott Sigler, sci-fi horror author known far and wide as the future Dark Overlord.
And I am A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator, and on this episode of Deep Cuts, we talk about the tools of the fiction writing trade. What software, hardware, other assorted goodies, that Scott uses to track fictional worlds and everything that he needs to create his stories.
Yeah. You want to just read that line again? Or was it terribly written? Nope. Good. We'll edit and post. A reminder, this is a bonus episode for the Scott Sigler Slices feed. Not part of any particular tale. Listen if you like. We would love to have you, but there's nothing in this episode you need to keep track of the stories.
All right, let's get into it.
Cool.
So here's the thing. We're going to talk about the things that help Scott give you the fiction that you are currently enjoying and get the stories that you have been long promised out into the universe. It is a delicate dance sometimes. And I do believe that that is any writer. You just need to figure out what that dance looks like. So if you are a consumer of entertainment and you want to know how to help encourage Scott to do more, or if you are a creator of entertainment and you want to know, especially fiction entertainment, and you want to know what that looks like, we're going to talk about it. We've got some hardware, we've got some software, we've got a handful of intangibles, and we're going to do this as efficiently as we can.
As efficiently as we can. We're going to go to our... You'll cut this up. We're going to mostly do this from our books. We'll come back to that. And ready to go? Hit it, baby.
So first, we're going to talk about some of the very, very, very basics.
Okay.
We're going to assume you're already gotten through the point where you are writing a book for hire. You are writing a book on your own that someone will buy. We're not going to talk about agents or any of that stuff. When you sit down to write a new book, for which you already have an outline, and I don't care how that outline exists or where it exists.
Well, okay.
What do you do? What do you go to? What do you call up?
So this information we're going to give you on this podcast right now is through the prism of someone who's been a professional full-time writer for 20 years and worked in journalism before that, so has been a writer for, I would say, 3 decades professionally as a writer. You're not going to use all of this information if you are writing your first novel, but we're going to give you a window to the view of what it is like for someone like me and the style that I write. So the first thing I like to consider is world building. And world building is hugely important because you are going to be tracking the information that not only your readers are going to experience, but to me, world building is creating a resource I can use to remember what the hell I'm talking about.
And I would appreciate, as you talk about this, talk about the writer you are today. And then I will also remind you to step back down and talk about how you did it before you had the resources you currently have, before you had the players you already have, all that stuff. So right today, what are your resources?
Today, my resources are, I'm going to start out by recommending that no matter what level you are at as a creator, you budget for and create a wiki. A wiki, I use MediaWiki software on 2 sites. On secretagentwiki.scottsigler.com, which you guys can't get into because that is only for people who are helping me with the books, help me track the books. And then siglerpedia.scottsigler.com, which is a publicly accessible database for stuff that's already out in print. So between these two, these are both MediaWiki and, I messed that up. Sorry.
So that's the main wiki.
Yep. So here's the the Siglerpedia wiki is, again, all the publicly accessible information that people actually can use to find out how all the novels are connected, to look up different characters, recurring characters, individual characters, to look up different political organizations within the context of my work, etc. They can go to Siglerpedia. Everybody can see that. I also go to Siglerpedia at least 10 times a day, which is why I'm bringing it up. This is not just for the fans. It is for me to remember what the F I said 15 years ago.
Now, there is also, and Scott showed it to you, he'll flash on that. I'm not sure if the front page has revealing secrets, but if he has a secret agent wiki, what he calls the secret agent wiki. And that seems pretty benign. This is invite only, and it's a very short list. And maybe don't scroll down too much of how revealing this is, because there are going to be story titles and stuff like that.
We'll cut that part. Go ahead.
Okay. But scrolling, this is very, very sensitive information. It reveals all the secrets that we have, that we know we have, which I'll say is sometimes we know things and sometimes we realize Scott hasn't explained a thing or something. So these are secrets that he knows he's keeping as the books unfold. There are secrets for the GFL, there are secrets for the Crypt series, there are secrets for the Slay series, but the bigger thing here is all the descriptions about, let's say, you just listened to Slay, powers that Lincoln and Sophia have and Lucas have that are not yet known to the world. Those things are in there so that he can consistently build as he goes forward. Now, we've had a question in the chat room about before you can afford a wiki, because he just said figure out how to afford a wiki, and it is expensive if you're a brand new writer. There are other options. Google Drive, Google Documents, Google Sheets is free and unlimited data. You can do that for a really long time. You can invite collaborators. It will be a mess. Scott did this. He does this still when he's formulating a story and growing information and trying to figure this out. You can do that, but at some point you have to spend time to coalesce that information, make it consistently usable for you and anybody that you work with, and then maybe put it in a wiki so it's protected.
The wiki is the way to go long term, and we'll continue to talk about that as this episode rolls on. Basic database software also can be very useful to you. We used FileMaker Pro for many years and then went to Bento and eventually took all the information that was in that and moved that over to the wiki.
Yeah.
So a basic database software program where you can customize what fields you want to use and you can enter information. Try to only enter things that you know you're going to want to use for that book or you know you're going to want to use for future books. So that's the biggest part of world building is, for me, as you are world building, track the world you are building, because it will save you massive amounts of time in the future, and it also will stop you from screwing stuff up when a reader emails you, like, hey man, you said horses couldn't talk, you said cloven-hoofed animals couldn't talk, and now here I'm in book 4 and this horse is talking. What's going on? Which I actually did to Piers Anthony way back when. Like, you literally told me in book 1 that anything with a cloven hoof can't talk, and now book 4 the horse is talking. What's going on? Because he didn't have a wiki.
And he couldn't have had a wiki back then. And we're going to cut this out, but you're not going to show the page that's currently up on my screen again.
Yep. Everybody watching this, STFU. Don't talk about, you know what? Don't talk about nothing. There won't be nothing.
So,
Thank you very much. Snap in.
To Scott's, So to Scott's point, there are many, many, many ways you can track information. The wiki is absolutely the best because it's protected and it's not on your own servers in case something happens. Google Documents is also something that will work if you can't yet afford a wiki. Wiki is imminently sortable in a different way than Google Documents might be. So consider keeping track of your information anywhere that's not on your desktop and or
Correct.
your email and or index cards.
Because it's backed up. It's backed up on a cloud server. Also, we used Amazon Web Services for a while for our wiki, and those costs spiraled out of control and were ridiculous, and we literally couldn't figure out what we were doing. Right now, the host that we use is a2hosting.com, and they've been fantastic so far. But remember, hosts are going to go through ebbs and what's it? Ebbs and what?
Flows.
Ebbs and flows. They'll be great, then they'll be terrible, then they'll get sold off. Make sure you also know how to back up your wiki locally. Keep copies because you're going to want to get another vendor eventually. I feel so bad you have to edit this. What is going on with my
It's okay.
digestive system? It's nuts.
I mean, I'll try and edit
Ready,
it.
and-
You don't, yeah.
I literally opened my mouth and
So there are several other things that we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I'm going to say if you are a writer trying to coalesce all your information right now, whatever you're doing now is fine. This is all additive. Everybody has to start somewhere. Don't get down on yourself if you don't think about saving all your past information or anything like that. And before we move on, I'm also going to say we have to take a short commercial break. We have to take a short commercial break right now. We will be back after this word from our fantastic sponsors.
we are fucking going so over tonight.
That's okay. That's all right.
You ready for the reintro?
I am.
Okay, here we go. We'll get back to Maine. Welcome back to Deep Cuts, where we talk about all the things in the world of fiction writing and audiobook narration.
Oh, I am not. Sorry.
Ready to try again? Welcome back to Deep Cuts, where we talk about all the things in the world of fiction writing and audiobook narration.
Tonight we're chatting about the tools Scott uses to track fictional worlds and create his stories. And we're going to jump right back into it with the big question. So I need you to kind of bullet point through a handful of things here, because these are things that you will learn about by doing, by using.
Gotcha.
So I want you to talk about some of the software that you use to include Scrivener, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, and Final Draft, whatever the screenplay one is.
Let's get into it. So, first of all, here we go. So, I highly recommend Google Drive because it looks like one of the Google applications they will not sunset. Google Drive includes Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Presentations, but I don't use those at all. The reason Google Sheets works so well, it's Excel online, and you can use that to communicate with other people in your books. If you are collaborative, you can use Google Sheets to share information and Google Docs to share information with advisors, with references, with people who are helping you out. It's a great way to compare information. Now, the other information involved, for example, here you people at home can see this. We're going to cut this out. Here is something that Chris Grohl made, the Crypt Docs table of contents. These are all the documents that we are using to track all the information in the Crypt series. Keep in mind, we're only in book 2 right now, so there's no spoilers in this. There's an enormous amount of information in here that you guys can use. Oh, shit, I'm getting a little bit lost, babe. We got, let me try again. Google Drive is extremely useful because you can use spreadsheets, you can work with other people, you can use Google Docs to write drafts. There's things you can use to share with other creators. So as a solo creator, I use Google Sheets. It's a spreadsheet. Fuck, this is going to be tough for you. I use Google Sheets as a way to interact with other people and track the information that I am using and get help from experts in their particular field. I use Google Docs if I am collaborating with someone else like Rob Otto, and he can read on the Google Doc what is going on. When it comes to the actual if it's a I'm totally lost now.
That's okay. So we're going to talk. Yeah, it's okay. So there are several documents and several pieces of software that are very useful for people with who are writing either collaboratively or on their own to keep track of a sprawling world build. There are many, many things, and you can choose for yourself. You obviously have to choose a hosting website for all your things.
I think we go back to the outline. I was prepared for that, but I couldn't do 4 of them at once. I lost track.
Okay, you want to talk about outlining?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about outlining here and the documents and software that one might use for outlining.
So I am what is known as an architect. There's architects and there's gardeners in the world of fiction. We're not going to talk about that right now. You can look that up. All you need to know is I outline heavily, and I rely heavily on my advisors and co-writers to do an outline. So outlines are easily done in Google. You can use Google Sheets to do an outline. You can use Microsoft Word to do an outline if you're doing it by yourself. Google Sheets if you're outlining with other people helping you out. Both of them are perfectly usable if you're doing the work by yourself. I also will use Scrivener, which we'll talk about in a second. That's the application I use to actually write the novel. So for me, usually you outline in Google Sheets if I'm getting help. Then I move to Microsoft Word because the outline format is great in that. Then I will take that outline and go and create things in Scrivener, which is the actual application I use to write the book.
Yep. And if you are working with a publisher, an editor, anybody who's outside yourself, it is the industry standard that information is shared by Microsoft Word for outlines, for manuscripts, for all of it, for your story, your author preferences, everything. All of that is shared Microsoft Word. So know that when you get done with whatever software you're using or whatever method you're using, you will have to send that to your provider, whichever that's happening in Microsoft Word. So next we're going to move to manuscript creation and also asset storage.
This is a big factor that people new to the space don't comprehend, and hopefully it doesn't burn you later. So we're going to try and help you right now. Manuscript and asset storage is where do you keep your manuscript and where do you keep all the associated documents that you are going to use for reference in your manuscript. Number one, you want to make sure you're keeping your manuscript and local reference material on a cloud server. If you're a Macintosh user, iCloud works great until you've been in the business for 20 years. You got to bump up size. For us, we use Dropbox. We used to use Dropbox, but with 20 years of documents, video, art, and podcasts keep track of, we now use a service called Ignite. Ignite is fucking ridiculously expensive, but it is massive amounts of storage, and it allows people like Steve the Iceberg Rickyberg, who is our audio editor, or Chris Grawl, who's one of our weapons. John Viscara. People can access this information. So this is a enterprise level backup that most of you don't need. Use Dropbox until Dropbox starts to become very expensive. This all happens before the actual writing.
And I will also say, before he moves on to the actual writing, the big thing here, the big take-home lesson, no matter where you are in your creation career, is that you don't keep the only existing files on, hopefully not your, just physically just in your computer, just on your laptop, desktop, or something like that. At the very least, it should be in Google Docs, which is free, or something like iCloud, which you pay a minimal amount for, but it needs to be somewhere off your actual computer and hopefully off site in case your entire house burns down or something like that. Then you don't lose your entire career or your entire progress or something like that. The idea here is not just to make 2 copies of it, it's to make one that doesn't exist where you exist, if you can manage that.
Because I have lost an entire manuscript before.
Oh, yeah.
The book was called The Detective. It's a Galactic Football League novel.
Mm-hmm.
I lost an entire manuscript and had to recreate the whole thing from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
This will happen to you unless you have stuff backed up on a cloud server where professionals make sure there are copies available.
Mm-hmm. And Steve Rickyberg in the Facebook chat room, who works with us quite a lot, says minimum 2 backups, one in your house off of your computer, and one offsite and in the cloud. And off of your computer but in your house could be a thumb drive, could be a hard drive, could be something like that.
Yep.
A RAID array, something like that, if that still exists. So you just said all of this is before you get to the actual writing.
Correct.
When you get to the actual writing, before you put this up, I would love to make sure. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I would. When you get to the actual writing, what are your tools then?
Tools, I use primarily an application called Scrivener. And I've been using Scrivener for 20 plus years from the earlier betas of it. And I am absolutely married to this software. I am incapable of divorcing myself from the software at this point. So I'll give you the positives and the negatives. The negatives first is massive feature bloat. There's so much stuff in this application, which is targeted primarily at people who write novels. And they have continued to expand the program, and it is a lot of stuff that, frankly, I never use. I use the word processing application. I use the file structure application, which is very beneficial to me. What Scrivener does, which is great, is a folder structure. So I can have, say, book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4. And then in that, I can have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. And I can move, and then I create scenes in those folders, move them back and forth very quickly, very easily. It's exceptional at that.
I also believe that one of the very, very useful things for you is you can tag point of view characters by a color. And that way, if you think, oh, this dialogue for Lincoln, say, that's Lincoln's point of view, that's great, but we don't have room for it in this chapter. You can move it to a not in this chapter, but still present moment.
Yes.
And then still see that that's a Lincoln point of view character. So when you have another Lincoln point of view chapter, you can be like, hey, can we have this conversation with Shitbird here? Does this work?
Right.
And you don't lose that great thing that you created, even though you had to cut it for room in that specific chapter.
So I would say Scrivener, which I use every day, is extremely customizable. You will be able to apply whatever you do to Scrivener, no problem. Some of the problems are the feature bloat. Exporting a manuscript from the software is one of the most aggravating processes of my entire career. It drives me insane. I can't just kick out a basic Microsoft Word manuscript from Scrivener. You have to know programming to do that. Yeah.
And every time he does a new manuscript, compile and download, or what is it called? Compile and publish?
Every time I do a compile, yeah.
It changes and it gets harder, because they have added more features for things that he doesn't use. So it changes and gets harder, and he screams a lot.
So a lot of people say, can I just use Microsoft Word or Mac Pages to write a manuscript? Yes, you can. Depending on your style of writing, I recommend you learn how to use the style sheets for headers, for chapters, in anything where you can see in the left-hand side of your screen the panel to show you an outline, and you're able to move parts of the outline back and forth, drag and drop. If you can drag and drop within your outline, then Word is fine. Then Mac Pages is fine. Eventually, you will outgrow that. And there are other writing applications out there. But if you are new to this and don't have one, spend the time to get all of the demos, download them, work with them, write a 20,000 word story in the demos, figure out what makes the most sense to you, and then go from there.
And I will also say, I don't know what the price is today, but historically, Scrivener has been about $40, 30, 40, $50, something like that. It has been inexpensive as a cost to entry. And it's not a limited version. It's not a student version. You get the full everything that they do. And that's really wonderful. If you're thinking of doing NaNoWriMo this year in November, that is a moment where you could use Scrivener and it would only cost you a handful of coffees over the week's saving.
Scrivener is a 30-day free trial download. You can play with it, enjoy it. And when you actually buy it, it is a very affordable program to buy. Yeah. So there's a lot of pros for Scrivener.
Yeah. So we do have a handful of other software and stuff like that to talk about. But before we do that, I want to talk about some of the intangibles, because I think these matter quite a bit to Scott. And some of the intangibles, I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to tell you what they are, but I want you to talk about them. Scott has a morning routine. He has a list of things that happen every day when he wakes up in his head that if he does those things and he executes them thoughtfully and usefully, he is more mentally prepared to sit down and write for 4 hours at his keyboard. So let's talk a little bit about those. Do you want to talk about your routine, or do you want me to talk about your routine to you?
I'll talk about the routine.
Okay.
The routine primarily relies upon calendaring. And as somebody with ADHD who has an extraordinarily difficult time even getting through an hour's worth of planned activities, relying heavily on your calendar is very important. You need to spend time thinking about where you want to spend time during the day. And part of that is also repetition and ritual. So for me, going into iCal on a Macintosh, which I've used forever, and then saying like on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to do these things at these times. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to do these things. Spending time to think about that ahead of time, planning it, figuring out what you want to do. And then there comes the second part, which is the really tricky part for me, is doing what's on the calendar, setting alerts on the calendar. I have a to-do every day that is to read through the next 7 days of my calendar and make sure I'm not surprised by things. That is a huge part of my ritual. Get up at the same time every day. Go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, be writing at the same time, write for the time that is scheduled. That has had huge benefits to me.
Tell me about caffeine.
I am a caffeine junkie. I think it's a legal drug.
Is that part of your ritual in the morning?
Yes, caffeine is part of my ritual. I used to drink an enormous amount of coffee, but I am a singer in a band, and coffee dries out my vocal cords immensely. It took me a long time to figure this out. Mm-hmm. I moved on to tea. So caffeinated tea in the morning. When I get out of bed, the first thing I do is go downstairs, and the tea is already ready to go. The carafe is full. The tea bags are ready. The honey is ready. The lemon's in the fridge. All I have to do is hit a button, and then I can sit there and be brain dead for the next 5 minutes while that stuff boils. And then I go from the tea, get my dogs in their harness, take my dogs for a walk. This happens literally every single day of my life.
Yeah, you do every morning dog walk. Every morning dog.
So if you are a person who's capable of managing many things all at once and moving things from Tuesday, Thursday in your brain, doing these things, more power to you. I don't have that skill set. For me, ritual and repetition are literally the biggest part of the writing process.
I'm so happy you said that, because I was going to say, as a person who watches him do what he does over and over and over again, and watches him succeed wildly beyond his expectations and watch him fail to meet the expectations he had, which are just a tiny bit unreasonable, but not crazy. That's the thing. It's routine and ritual that helps him get in that groove. If he wakes up, a couple of months back, he woke up, he went downstairs, everything he just said was already set up to go, except there was water all over the kitchen floor. It took 4 days for him to get back into his normal 4 hours, starting at 8:30, ending at 12:30 morning routine, because his mind was pulled away from that. And he, of course, was worried about his home and was worried about his kitchen and worried about what turned out to be a dishwasher leak and all that sort of stuff. And he couldn't put it down because he is the one who dealt with it initially and had to clean up all that water. So I'm not saying he shouldn't do that. Of course he should. You have to live your life. You have to do activities of daily life. But what I'm saying is, the more you can meet, I think as a writer, and it's certainly as a writer who might have ADHD, having routine and ritual in the morning just helps you set up for success for that writing schedule that you do have. And I think that, for me, is watching him do that is the most powerful part of that. I do think there are a few more actual writing pieces. That's everything you sent me.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch.
We'll call up notes then.
You know what? Let's do that.
And if you guys have any suggestions for writing, or if you have other software, I know a lot of people, one of my favorite writers, Richard Cadry, literally still to this day writes his first draft on yellow legal pads, long lined paper. Yeah. And he bitches about it a ton, but that is the vibe that actually works for him.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about research, what I use for actual research. research for my style of writing, which is hard science influenced, thriller influenced, real world influenced, depending on what era I'm writing in, research is super important. When it comes to research, without a doubt, number one, Wikipedia. It's free. It is updated more than anything else you could ever look at. There are very rarely situations where people will get into some kind of a Wikipedia war, correcting each other. It is so rare, I guarantee you will never come across it in your entire life. The number one resource for research, Wikipedia. You want to do that. I also use ChatGPT because it can do a lot of different work for me. So do I use ChatGPT to actually write the text? Absolutely not. Never once in a million years. Would I use ChatGPT to say, hey, I need to create a fictional language for this book I'm writing called Warpath, and they need an actual real feeling language that has rules and a certain rule set? Can you help me with that? There are AI applications that can help you with the research of what you are doing. Absolutely do that. And then a couple other things is good old-fashioned texting. If you have people helping you, if you have advisors, if you have reference people who know something that you don't know about the book. For example, I read a lot of science. Some of my books involve geology, a lot. I don't know shit about geology, but I have several geologists that I can call up and I can text with them. And for the current series, I have a Air Force expert, a Special Forces expert, a Marines expert, and a Navy expert. I can get all four of those people on a chat in a group at once, bounce ideas around the group. That is 100% absolutely free. Good old-fashioned email. If you are dealing with an advisor, an expert in their subject matter, most of those people, let's say a chemistry PhD, say a physics PhD, they are pre-wired to operate via email. So I can email a question to Dr. Dan Baker, PhD in chemistry, and I might not get it back today. I might not get it back tomorrow, but I know I will get that email. He will answer it. It is searchable. It is savable. And I can go through and find that information anytime I want to get to it.
And also, my favorite version of that story is when he was writing Mount Fitzroy. And I won't tell you why, but I will say it is important in that story to have somebody who understands cave diving and cave spelunking.
Yep.
And he had correspondence with somebody who is very skilled at cave exploration and stuff like that. And it was a very, very specific question about communication. And he sent off this email saying like, hey, I check this every time I can. That was what the thing on the website said. And it was like 5 weeks later that he got a very useful response. And this gentleman ended up being acknowledged at the back of the book. He was super helpful, but he couldn't respond for 5 weeks because he was in a cave dive. And he was in a cave, whatever, and he just couldn't be reached.
Correct.
But he said, I will respond to you as soon as I can. And he was like, well, I guess that's a dead end or whatever. But it wasn't. So that's always a good way to do things. I would also recommend once you get that information, you put it in a more permanent Google Docs or Wiki or something like that.
Well, that is the wonderful part of using email as a primary research method is you can get an email back from an expert who knows more than you do. And you can copy that. I paste it into Scrivener. So I'll have sub-level documents related to a particular subject. I will just copy and paste the content from that email into that area. So using your primary word processing application to track some levels of research is very good. I will give a shout out for my Crip series. My advisors, Chris Grawl, JP Harvey, Joe Root, helping out a lot right now. There's also reference books. All right. Reference books are very important depending on your subject matter. If you are just doing urban fantasy and it's all magic, you probably don't need any. But you might need a travel guide in New York. You might need the subway, the transit system in New York. You might need to know how to hail a cab in this day of Uber, etc. Think about the book you're going to write. Figure out what knowledge areas that you don't have, and then go out and find people. People are so excited to help someone write a novel. You can do that wonderfully. Also, most of the information you want will be either, if it's not on Wikipedia, it's in a research book. Reference book. For example, Chicago Manual of Style, which we use a lot. We use that online. It's a monthly fee. It's not very expensive for us.
It's a yearly fee.
A yearly fee?
Probably is both.
But that is a definitive source of how the words should be put on the page in the world of fiction. How percentages, how ratios. Go ahead.
And it's important to note here that the Chicago Manual of Style is how the big publishing houses in New York, the big publishers that you currently exist, however many there are, the big four, that's what they follow, the Chicago Manual of Style. Quite literally, everything else you read, every website that's accredited, every newspaper, every magazine, all of those use the Associated Press Manual of Style. They are very similar. They are not the same. So if you are starting out and you're submitting a manuscript, you want to use the Chicago Manual of Style. Otherwise, especially with numbers and digits and numerals, that's going to be a little bit crazy for you. And so you want to use the Chicago Manual of Style.
And then finally, for reference books, I use Trigger Guard by Chris Grawl. If you use firearms in your work whatsoever, you're going to want to get Trigger Guard by author Chris Grawl, who is a huge reference resource for us, because that is a style guide to how to write weapons. It is also a research source for how to know weapons are being used correctly. There's one thing you can get wrong. If you don't know how an automatic firearm works and you get it wrong in the book, you have lost anyone who's ever used that particular weapon or who's served in the military. So that's a little minor thing. That's why you focus on the areas you don't know. You're not an expert. Go find an expert or go buy a book that gives you the information from an expert.
So I have a handful of rapid fire things I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
There are a handful of things, sort of sundry things that are left that help manage as you are trying to manage your work and your writing day and the time that you have to write. For Scott, there are a handful of things that I know he uses, so we're going to talk about them sort of rapid fire. You can scroll Trigger Guard while you do this. And I will also say I've read Trigger Guard. I am not a writer at all, and it's easy to understand, even for a layman. And Chris is wonderful and responsive. So I know that you use note cards.
Yes.
Are they a specific size?
3 by 5 note cards. The basic, cheapest, easiest note cards are very easy to grab. These work for my brain very well. I'm able to just grab a note card, write stuff down, get tactile learning going. Tactile means my hands are doing a thing while my brain is learning a thing. More often than not, tactile learning for me is just getting it down on a card, which will eventually be transferred over to my tracking app, which is Remember the Milk. Mm-hmm. But writing things down helps a lot, helps organize everything you can do.
Does the color matter of the index card?
So I have used different colors of index cards for different categorical references, and that worked very well, but eventually for my brain, it broke down. So regular white cards will work just fine. What I do is I write the subject I'm writing about in the top left. I write the date in the middle, and then on the top and the right, I will write the number. In case I have a brainstorm and what I'm writing about will take up 7 or 8 note cards, I number them, and I keep them all together.
And I will say I have witnessed Scott write something down on an index card, create that neural pathway for that tactile learning when he writes it down, look at it the next day, show it to me and say, do you have any idea what this means? And I'll be like, yeah, no, I didn't write it. I have no idea what you tried to write there. And he'll remember that because he did the work of writing it down and created that neural pathway and that tactile learning. So that's, if that works for him, it works for him. How do you store those once you're done?
So we store the cards. It's a process for the cards. Most of the time, when I end my day, go through the cards. I did that. I transferred that over to Scrivener, or I transferred that over to Google Sheets. I don't need this card, crumple it and throw it, which is very satisfying. Crumpling a card and throwing it into a corner is extraordinarily satisfying. I love it.
That corner.
But sometimes the cards have information that you can't actually address at that particular moment, or an issue you can't solve. So I will keep those in a 3x5 card storage lucite clear box, because for me as a creator, if I put it in something I can't see, it goes away forever. If you have a brain that will track cards you put away in a place, great. If you don't, Make sure it's in a clear box somewhere you see all the time. Your eyes track across it. Label the cards. Label the card.
The little tabs on top.
Label the
if you
tabs.
show that picture again, they'll see.
Yep.
You can do this. This is called first order retrievability. So he sees it. He doesn't have to think about what's in the box. The second he sees the box, it's first order retrievable. He knows what's in there. He might not know everything, but he knows what's in there. So we have a couple of other things before we go.
All right.
Do you have a specific writing utensil when you have to write note cards?
Oh my God. Now we're getting into the fucking nerdy super bullshit. All right. After 30 years in the business, not going to lie to you guys, this is the fucking Jimmy Jam of the pens. This is the Entergel Deluxe RTX by Pentel with a 0.07 millimeter tip. It is a liquid gel
You have
capsule
it in black.
that I only write in black, dog.
Well,
I
no,
do,
you also write in red.
You son of a bitch. You're right. For all of my note cards, this particular pen, and this will sound weird for you guys who've known me for a long time. If you're just hearing this podcast for the first time, you will think this is the most precious thing you've ever heard of in your life. But I will tell you, I now understand how to cater to the way my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
My brain may or may not work like your brain. My preferences may or not be yours. But as a creator, get it through your head sooner rather than later that whatever tickles your medulla oblongata, whatever makes your brain work, lean into that shit because it matters, because it saves time. And for the pens, I can't have ballpoint skipping, as weird as it sounds. I can't have spots in my writing where it just is a blank area. It can't get dry, and the what?
I was just going to say one of the things that Scott loves about it is, as a lefty, it's not a smearable ink.
Great, thank you. So we have a question in the chat room from Joseph Adam Aldred. Does the gel smear for lefties? Which is a wonderful fucking question, because everything smears for lefties except fast drying gel ink lets you write as a lefty, have no problem. This is why I brought this up. You will have little idiosyncrasies about the way that you communicate information, write things down, the way you write. And as soon as you find something that makes you happy, as soon as you find something that doesn't distract you from the plot, from the character, lean into it. Spend the money on that thing, because it is worth its weight in gold. When you think about things over the course of blocks of 5, 10, 15 years, you get to be precious. You get to be special. You get to have your word. I have to have this pen. That's not only okay, it is the path to success.
And I'm going to say something here, and I know we have to wrap up. We've been running a little bit long tonight, but I will say this is super important. One of the things you need to note here is what Scott is doing, choosing 3x5 index cards, a lucite box to keep them in, this very specific pen because it doesn't smear and it's smooth when he writes. These are taking care of a hangnail. These are little bitty things. If you need a perfectly temperature controlled room that has soundproofing and all that jazz, that's a little precious. That's a little over the top. But any little thing you can do, you can make sure there's coffee in the refrigerator because you prefer iced coffee. Great, easy to do, low investment. Do that. Pick up this box of pens for $18. Do that. Get the right size index cards and have extras on hand. Do that. If you need to write in a Lamborghini, you are on your own. You're being precious. That is precious bullshit. But little bitty things you can say, like, I don't need that. I can write with any pen. Or you can say to yourself, I'm trying to do something magic that hardly anybody ever does. And this pen will help me do it. And it's a low cost of entry. Give that gift to your future successful writer self when you are an aspiring writer or an aspiring, not expiring creator, because that might be the thing that lets you glide through all the difficulties getting to work. And we all have it, neurodivergent or not. We all have a hurdle we have to get through to get down to business and do the work. And any little thing you can do to avoid that, I guarantee you, is worth it in the long run.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll be done, is this is a huge piece of advice for anyone still listening to this. learn to work on a laptop screen, because at some point in your life, you will move, you will have relatives move in, there will be a problem, can't pay your rent, you're in a fucking car, whatever. If you can operate on a laptop screen for the actual creation of the art and the words that you are doing, you can do that from anywhere. You can find a laptop that you can afford, you will be able to do that. When it comes to bigger screens, larger screens, multiple screens, great. You can use that for research. But at all times while you're doing that, keep the thing you are doing on a laptop or a tablet screen so that when you have to go to a coffee shop to write, because shit went south with your mother-in-law, you can sit down, you can still produce and create your fiction. Get used to that thing.
All right. So I believe that we are done for this week. This is, I think, the end of this episode of Deep Cuts.
This is the...
Okay. Let's try again.
I can't believe we still have people listening at this point. This has been, we're going to cut all this, but to you. All right, here we go. That is it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
Next episode, we have no idea what we're talking about. We were supposed to talk about that right before this episode started, and we did not.
Okay, we ready? What we're going to talk about is we're going to take a break from the creation part, and we're going to talk about fucking aliens, whatever the fuck we're watching.
That's true. Let's just start all the way over from the top here.
Do you remember the name of it, though?
Romulus.
Okay, ready? That is it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
Next episode, we will talk about Aliens Romulus that we're going to see next Friday.
Because I wrote a canonical Aliens novel called Aliens Phalanx. We're very excited to go watch Romulus. Hopefully it's going to be fantastic. And we're just going to talk about the story of Alien Romulus and how it impacted us as creators. So thank you for joining us.
We love you guys. Good night.
Goodbye.
Pedro Rodriguez, you were so right. It's early, but Scott has been.
God.
Have you turned off the recording?
Yeah.
Maybe?
So right now, what you guys get from hanging out this long is we're gonna shit on ourselves right now.
Hey, Trisha,
and
nice to see you.
The people listening to the podcast next Tuesday will be like, "Oh my God, these guys are so super pro. They're so smooth. Everything they do is exacting and wonderful."
Nice to see you.
But now we're going to shit ourselves. What happened to our notes? I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, we had a handful. We need a little bit more prep time, but Scott has, as we have mentioned, not today, but in the last handful of weeks, Scott has been desperately trying to finish 3 book deadlines. 3 by September 8th, which is the start of NFL season, because he doesn't want to miss NFL games if he doesn't have to. And now we have to manage Monday nights, Thursday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights. So there's quite a lot of football to manage. And so he's been trying to get 3 book deadlines that need to be done before that starts. He has 2 out of 3 done. Well, he's got 1.5 out of 3 done. 1, he finished a deadline. He sent it off to the work for hire folks. They have sent back notes that won't take too long, but will take a week to 10 days to 2 weeks to get through. And then, as he mentioned at the top of the story telling hour, he finished Slay Book 2 and sent it off to our continuity editor yesterday. So he's a little bit shot out, if you couldn't tell. I always feel crazy because I want to do stuff, but I'm like, and I'm not a creator in any way, shape, or form unless you're talking about food. And that's the one thing he doesn't want. If he's going to sit in this chair for 13 hours a day, the one thing he doesn't want is for me to get it creative and exciting with his caloric intake. So I'm downstairs like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Oh my God, dude, listen, we're in the bonus right now.
The super bonus.
No one will
super
ever
plus
hear
bonus.
But you guys. The double plus good bonus is my wife can cook like nobody's fucking business.
Well,
it's so great because I'll be up here writing. And then of course I'm a Midwestern boy. And
that helps.
I can take care of myself. I can do my own laundry. I can wipe my own ass. I know what the fuck is up.
I definitely don't.
But I will text to be like, "Hey, do you feel like making lunch? If not, it's totally cool." And then A will be like, "What did you have in mind?" And then I get to just throw shit out. And then this plate of food will come up while I am trying to. I can only use about 20% of my brain can come out of the story to handle day-to-day things. and 80% has to be processing the story. If it gets to be 50-50, the story's gone, and I have to redo all of that work. So we have it set with a text. I can text A, and then like that 20% is like, do you feel like making lunch? Dealer's choice, bring up whatever, and when it comes up, it's fucking spectacular.
I also love that today his specific thing was like, what about maybe a chicken sandwich or a BLT, which, for me requires there be bacon or turkey bacon at the very least ready or in the house. But that's, what he does is just say like, how about that? And I have to say, I don't know for sure, but when he is all, oh my goodness, my wife can cook. If he says, hey, what about a chicken sandwich or a BLT, which he did today, and I bring up red beans and rice.
Oh, shit. Red beans and rice, dog. Come on.
It doesn't matter. He just likes food. He just likes food. So
I like food I make. Don't get me wrong. But when food just sort of magically teleports.
I mean, that's fair. I also, that's something everybody likes.
And it's plated and it's gorgeous and everything tastes amazing. How do we get on the subject of food? Anyways, I'm shot the fuck out.
Yeah, that's how we got on.
I need a couple of goddamn full days off.
We have this planned, though. Just in case you're wondering if you need to reach Empty Set over Labor Day weekend, we are out. We're not opening the door. We're only walking the dogs. That's it.
Don't email us. We're going to have a mountain, a Mount Fuji of sushi
that I don't make
piled up in front of us that will be delivered. Oh, we're saving up for this. We are saving up for this. It is going to show up. I don't know about her. She may dress as she wishes. I will be in a bathrobe with nothing else on, sitting there eating sushi. And when it falls upon my fat belly, I'm going to pick it up, admire it, and I'm going to eat it. And we're going to watch an entire season of television. We don't know the show yet. An entire season of television while I have sushi rolls falling about my belly. It's a fact. That's what's coming.
So much information. I do believe.
Is that too much?
We're probably done for the night. It's almost 8 p.m.
That was too much, you guys. You know what? Sean's right, though. That belongs in a book. Sean,
definitely.
Salute.
It definitely feels like Lincoln and Magda and Billy in front of the bloody screen.
Like
it does.
All three of them high as balls on the nurple, sharing a hallucination.
Don, nice to see you. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate hanging out with you. We love you. This is a great break for us. You're fantastic, and you all smell an awful lot like flowers.
Thank you, Martin. We'll check that out for sure. I got your email. Good night, guys. We'll see you next week.
I think we
on Thursday.